A government watchdog group is exposing Elon Musk and his Doge team for false claims about how much their efforts saved American taxpayers. CNBC reports Elon Musk's Doge promised to slash $2 trillion in federal spending and to make the federal workforce lean and efficient. But even the cost savings it has claimed in an online wall of receipts of the smaller amount of $110 billion didn't check out, according to a report from the Government Accountability Office published Thursday. The GAO evaluated $110 billion of savings Doge claimed on a website with its wall of receipts from cuts including federal contracts, grants, and leases. The GAO said it found multiple issues limiting the transparency and reliability of these reported savings, including additional categories beyond contracts, grants, and leases. Doge tallied $215 billion in cuts, the GAO said. Elon Musk was recently called out for his Doge efforts during an interview with The Economist.
After the election, you got very actively involved. Through Doge, you tried to cut a lot of spending, reshape the government. How do you feel that it wasn't hugely successful in the sense that, there wasn't nearly as much spending cut as you tried? How do you, as you look back on that, do you regret getting so involved in politics? Do you think it was a good thing to do?
I think I got a little too involved in politics, got carried away, frankly.
Carried away seems like a bit of an understatement. Musk literally held up a chainsaw to demonstrate how he was going to cut government. Our next guest, Congressman James Walkinshaw of Virginia, is calling for Elon Musk to be subpoenaed. Congressman Walkinshaw released this statement, quote, "This week's bombshell GAO report shows that Doge fraudulently lied to the American people. Elon Musk promised massive savings. Instead, Doge spent nearly $16 billion paying people not to work and fired essential federal workers the administration is now trying to hire back. Doge claimed hundreds of billions in savings that GAO found were flat out false. Now we know the full truth. Doge was a colossal failure built on fraudulent claims. It was a fraud perpetrated against the American people." Joining us now is Democratic Congressman James Walkinshaw of Virginia. He is a member of the Oversight and Homeland Security Committees and the co-chair of Congressional Federal Workforce Caucus. Congressman Walkinshaw, as always, thank you for coming to The Last Word. What would you say? What would you ask Elon Musk if you could get him under oath?
I'd ask him why he and his team lied to the American people about the savings that they did not achieve. I'd also ask them why they fired Ebola experts, why they fired cybersecurity experts, why they released the Social Security database with the Social Security number of every single American to a political advocacy organization. I'd ask them why they broke the law, violated policies. I'd love to ask them all those things. I know Elon Musk loves a good conversation and debate. I hope he'll call Chairman Comer and say that he wants to come before the Oversight Committee and explain these colossal failures and this fraud he perpetrated on the American people.
We wouldn't have even found this out weren't for Democrats in Congress. CNBC reports the GAO report was requested last year by Senators Gary Peters and Richard Blumenthal, who are respectively ranking members of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee and one of the panel's investigations subcommittee. Congressman, how important will it be for Democrats to gain majorities in the House and Senate so that Congress properly investigate these offenses and others from the Trump administration?
It's absolutely critical. And look, it's important not just to look back at this fraud and others that have been perpetrated by this administration, but to prevent the next fraud from being perpetrated against the American people, to prevent the next Doge idea that comes out of the Trump administration from happening. So Democrats being in the majority is absolutely critical to just put the brakes on some of this insanity we're seeing from the administration.
Let me follow up on something, because you want to subpoena Elon Musk. How likely is it that Chair Comer would go along with a subpoena of Elon Musk? Or is this something you will wait and see until see if Democrats retake the majority?
Well, I'd love Elon Musk to come in voluntarily and explain himself. You know, he likes to talk. He likes to talk about his ideas and his projects. Let's come in to Congress and talk about this failed project. I hope he does it voluntarily. I don't think Chairman Comer has the guts to subpoena Elon Musk. If he doesn't, it's something that we'll do next year if Democrats are in the majority. I certainly am not going to let this go. Doge did incredible damage to my constituents who are federal workers, but just as importantly to the American people who rely on the services that those federal workers provide. Doge paid federal workers $16 billion not to work. They wanted to go to work and serve the American people. Doge paid them not to work. They threw $16 billion down the toilet, a colossal waste of taxpayer dollars.
Let me get you on one more thing. There seems to be a lot of confusion about what's going on with that used Qatari jet given to Donald Trump, that the taxpayers could pay, all told, possibly $1 billion to outfit for the presidency. What answers do you want about that situation?
Well, A, how much have the taxpayers paid already? Mm-hmm. And we need a firm commitment from Donald Trump and his administration that when he leaves the White House, and he will leave the White House, that airplane belongs to the United States taxpayers. They paid to renovate it. They paid to retrofit it. In my view, what should happen when Donald Trump leaves the White House is we should sell the airplane and give that money back to the taxpayers. But absolutely, under no circumstances should it go to Donald Trump or his presidential library. That would validate what I think is already the correct legal claim that receiving the airplane was a violation of the Emoluments Clause. If it goes with Donald Trump when he leaves the White House, clearly it was a gift. I think that's one of the reasons you're now seeing these statements coming out of the White House like, well, maybe it won't go to the library. They're starting to get concerned about the legal ramifications of announcing that before he leaves the White House.
Mm-hmm. And I'd just like to point out that this Qatari jet is used. Congressman James Walkinshaw.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Jonathan.